Have you ever wondered why the Industrial Revolution, a period that changed the world, happened when it did? It's a question that has puzzled historians for centuries. Why then? Why not earlier or later? What unique set of circumstances led to this monumental shift in the human story? These are the questions that have intrigued us, driving us to delve into the complexities of history, to seek out the causes, to understand the whys and hows. So, come along on this journey of discovery. Let's unwrap this mystery together. The journey begins in the 18th century with the Agricultural Revolution. Imagine a time when farming was the lifeblood of society. It was a time when the vast majority of people were farmers, tied to the land and the whims of weather, yet it was during this era that the seeds of change began to sprout, leading to a chain of events that would forever alter the course of human history. The first domino to fall was the transformation in agriculture. Innovations in farming techniques such as crop rotation and the use of new technology like the seed drill significantly boosted food production. For the first time in human history, society started producing surplus food. This surplus meant that not everyone had to toil on the fields anymore. Some people were freed up to pursue other professions, creating a diverse labor force ready for the taking. But the agricultural revolution didn't just lead to a surplus of food, it also led to a population explosion. With more food available, fewer people starved, and the overall health of the population improved. This growth in population meant there were more hands to work and more mouths to feed, creating both a demand for goods and the labor force to produce them. So, what happens when you have a surplus of food, a growing population, and a newly freed labor force? These conditions created the perfect storm for the next phase of human development, the Industrial Revolution. As labor moved away from the farms and into the cities, a new era of manufacturing and industry was born. The shift from an agrarian society to an industrial one wasn't immediate or easy. It required changes in social structures, economic models, and ways of thinking. However, the key to this transformation was the agricultural revolution. By creating a surplus of food and freeing up labor, it laid the groundwork for the Industrial Revolution. So the seeds of the Industrial Revolution were sown in the fertile fields of the Agricultural Revolution. While the fields were changing, so were the minds of the people. As the world began to shift, so too did the intellectual landscape. This was an era marked by the Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution, twin engines of change that spurred a radical evolution in thought and perspective. The Enlightenment, a period sweeping across the 18th century, was a time of questioning and challenging the old norms. It was an intellectual and philosophical movement that championed reason, individualism, and skepticism. The great thinkers of this time, from Voltaire to Rousseau, were not content to accept the world as it was. They pushed boundaries, asked questions, and sought to understand the natural and social world in fresh, transformative ways. Parallel to this, the scientific revolution was rewriting the rules of understanding the physical universe. The likes of Galileo, Kepler, and Newton were tearing down centuries-old beliefs, replacing them with empirical evidence and mathematical reasoning. This wasn't just a change in how we understood the cosmos, but a fundamental shift in how we approached problems. It was about being systematic, methodical, and rigorous in our inquiries. These movements encouraged people to look at the world differently, to not just accept things as they were, but to challenge, to experiment, and to innovate. They fostered a climate of curiosity and critical thinking, which was instrumental in paving the way for the Industrial Revolution. The gears of progress were turning both in the fields and in the mines. As mines evolved, so did the machinery. A significant leap in this evolution came with the invention of the steam engine. A Scotsman named James Watt, a mathematical instrument maker by trade, found himself intrigued by the inefficiencies of the existing Newcomen steam engines. Eager to improve upon the design, Watt ventured into the realm of innovation and invention. In 1769, Watt patented a design that forever changed the course of history. The steam engine he developed was unlike anything that had come before. It harnessed the power of steam to create a reliable source of power. This was a game changer. For the first time, industries had a dependable, scalable, and relatively inexpensive source of energy that was not dependent on the whims of weather or the physical limitations of human or animal labor. The steam engine revolutionized everything. It was the catalyst for the mechanization of factories. This wasn't just about making things faster or more efficiently. It was about the ability to create on a scale never seen before. Textile mills could produce fabrics in quantities that would have been unimaginable just a few years prior. Iron foundries became more productive, churning out the raw materials that would be used to build the infrastructure of the industrialized world. But it didn't stop there. The steam engine was also a key player in the transportation revolution. Steam-powered locomotives and ships transformed the way goods and people moved around the globe, shrinking the world in a way that was previously unimaginable. The impact of the steam engine cannot be overstated. It was the fuel that powered the Industrial Revolution, driving forward industries and economies, reshaping societies, and changing the course of human history. With the power of steam, the wheels of industry began to spin faster and faster. But what's an engine without fuel? See, the Industrial Revolution wasn't just about technological breakthroughs and innovative ideas. It was also about the capital and resources that powered these advancements. Britain, the cradle of the Industrial Revolution, had a significant advantage in this aspect. It was a wealthy nation with a long history of accumulating capital. This wealth was not just in the form of money, but also in the form of resources. Britain had vast reserves of coal and iron ore, the essential fuels for the engines and machines that were the heart of the Industrial Revolution. These resources were abundant, easily accessible, and importantly, cheap, but raw materials alone weren't enough. The Industrial Revolution was also about transforming these raw materials into products, and then getting these products to markets where they could be sold. This is where Britain's robust trade networks came into play. Britain had a long history of trade, with networks stretching across the globe. These networks weren't just about importing exotic goods from far-off lands, they were also about exporting British-made goods to these lands. The trade networks provided a ready market for the goods produced by the new industries. They also provided a steady stream of income that could be reinvested back into the industries, further fueling their growth. Moreover, Britain's strong banking system and stock market provided a reliable source of investment for new ventures. Entrepreneurs had access to the capital they needed to start their businesses, buy machinery, and hire workers. In essence, Britain's wealth, access to resources, and trade networks created a supportive environment that allowed the Industrial Revolution to flourish. They provided the fuel that powered the engines of industry, the capital that financed the factories, and the markets that bought the goods. With abundant capital and resources, the engine of the Industrial Revolution was now running at full steam. So, what caused the Industrial Revolution? It's a question as multifaceted as a diamond, and just as precious to our understanding of history. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed so far. Firstly, we delved into the agricultural revolution, a significant precursor to the Industrial Revolution. As farming practices grew more efficient, fewer hands were needed in the fields. This led to a surplus of labor, and many of these individuals migrated to cities, providing the workforce necessary for the burgeoning factories. Next, we explored the new ways of thinking that emerged during this period. Enlightenment thinkers challenged the status quo, questioning traditional beliefs and promoting the use of reason and scientific method. This intellectual revolution fostered an environment ripe for innovation and progress. Then we turned our attention to the invention of the steam engine. This powerful machine revolutionized industry and transportation. It allowed factories to be located anywhere, not just near water sources, and it powered the locomotives and steamships that transported goods and people faster than ever before. The steam engine was a game changer in the truest sense of the word. We also examined the crucial role of capital and resources. The availability of funds to invest in new businesses and technologies was a key driver of the Industrial Revolution. Britain, in particular, had an abundance of coal and iron, the raw materials necessary for industry. The nation's colonial empire also provided a vast market for the goods produced in its factories. So, what caused the Industrial Revolution? It wasn't just the agricultural revolution, or the new ways of thinking, or the invention of the steam engine, or the availability of capital and resources. It was a combination of all these factors, intertwining and interacting in complex ways. It wasn't one single factor, but a perfect storm of conditions that gave birth to the Industrial Revolution.